I'm Elizabeth Getz with the University of Colorado, Boulder. I am our GIS analyst, and I'm responsible for the day-to-day running of our GIS system. Our campus has about 30,000 students. I think we're somewhere between 30 and 35 right now. And we have about 1,100 acres that we maintain as part of our campus map. So we are only responsible for the CU Boulder campus, and the other CU campuses are all individual. And our office here has actually grown a little bit since I made this slide. We have 8 people on our staff, including 1 student who's part of our GIS group, being me and our student and 1.5 other people. We do CAD, GIS, document management, and space management for the University of Colorado. And between us, we divide that up pretty evenly. 2 projects, people who do CAD and projects, and then 2 GIS programming people, and then Neil is our manager and our student. And then some weeks we all do space stuff, some weeks we all mostly do project stuff. It kind of goes back and forth depending on what we need. So I'll get out of this, and I'm going to show you a quick diagram of what our system looks like. There we go. So we are running OpenSpatial's Muncis GIS product. It runs on top of AutoCAD Map, and so the editing interface looks and behaves a lot like AutoCAD. And our choice of that was really based on our office has always been a CAD office, and it was really easy for people to learn it and to use it. It runs on top of an Oracle database, the Muncis Oracle database, and we use Famous as our work management, space management system at the moment. And we're using Meridian as our document management solution. We're also adding another piece into this puzzle sometime before the end of the year, which will actually be Archibus for our space management system. And we are expecting that sometime soon we'll be going to a hybrid GIS system using some of Esri's web solutions for our public-facing map. And all of that should happen in the next year. I keep saying by the end of the year, but we'll just really see when those cogs all get rolling in the same direction. So this part, we're using AutoCAD and the Autodesk products, and we're using Famous CAD from ACAD Plus for our Famous to CAD solution for doing our space management. So then, what I'm doing now is linking all of this stuff through our Enlighten web solution. So this is OpenSpatial's web map, and this is our campus map. Right now, this is only available for facilities management, primarily because it was a test case initially, and we've expanded that to almost 200 users now, a little over 150. The majority of those are in facilities management. We do have some in the police department and some in our health and safety, and some in housing and parking. Parking recently has come on board. So I'm going to collapse this and get it out of the way. There we go. So this is our web map, and I like to focus on this corner, which I think Colin showed off yesterday, because if we start turning on utilities, I like to call it Spaghetti Corner, because there's a lot of stuff out there. But what I'm going to talk about today is how we've been tracking campus construction historically, and then how we're doing it now, and how we'd like to be doing it in the future. So I'm going to turn on what we call our cone zone layer, and I'm going to make this pretty minimal here. So if we ignore the fact that this is a web map right now, this is basically, we used to make a print map that looked like this. It was an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a map on it every month. And to make this, they hired a consultant who his only job was to come in once a month and basically babysit all the project managers. He'd go to every project manager, sit down with them with the map and a list and go, okay, what's going on with all your projects? Have your dates changed? What are your impacts? And update this map. And at first it was just handed to people at a meeting once a month, first Monday of the month, which is actually this week. So now what we're doing, well, from there they went to posting that all on a web page, which was public facing so that students and the public could see it. That got some use, but not a lot of use, and we still had this consultant coming in every month to make this map. So in about the last year and a half, what's happened is they're like, well, why aren't we using the campus web map? I was like, well, why aren't you using the campus web map? Let's do this. So we started mapping our campus construction in our GIS system. And if I zoom in here, anyone who was on campus last night might have seen this. We also have some construction going on closer to where the play was last night. But this is our really big impact for this year. This is the Case building. It's going on top of our existing parking garage. So what we're doing here is if I mouse over this, we're just seeing the most basic information about that project. And this is actually kind of tricky because what we're doing here is we're actually looking at data from 2, maybe even 3 different places, depending on where the data is coming from. So you see this project number here? This is the key to everything. Our project numbers are all unique, and those are maintained through our famous work management system. So when a project manager puts that project into the work management system, they tie it into the building and into any rooms that are impacted by that. So now what I can do is when I put this object on the map, I can at least pick up some basic information from that project. Here, this is the most basic view we made, and it just says, what's the project? What are the impacts? That's it. The reason that this view exists is because occasionally we get projects that don't have project numbers yet. But they're like, okay, we really want to put this on the map now, but we can't pull in any data because we haven't assigned a project. So this map allows us to see everything regardless of whether or not it has a project number. And this also includes our housing projects, which have different project numbers in a different system. But if I turn this off, then I get a different view here. And this is where the magic really starts to happen. This map is color-coded by its status in our work management system. So if I zoom in, this guy's color-coded that it's in design. And now if I mouse over it, I'm getting a lot more information. We're getting project manager, project dates, project description, as well as the impacts that we saw before. All of this information is coming from our famous system, but the impacts you see there, those are still coming from our consultant, who is still walking around to everybody's office once a month and going, hey guys, what's going on with your project? Let's sit down and take a look at this. So right now our updating process includes interviewing more than 40 project managers at this point to find out what the impacts of their projects are. And when we first started doing this, my boss's boss came to me and he's like, oh, why don't you just take this over? I'm like, we're not going to hire the consultant. You want me to go to every project manager once a month and talk to them about their project. I'm like, if we did that, I would never be able to make the map. There's only one of me and there's 40 of them. And this is 1/100th of my job, maybe, to make this map. So that was a little daunting. So we are still keeping the consultant involved, and he goes around every month and collects all this impact information. We want to get to the place where we have all the project managers actively updating all this impact information in our famous system. The problem we're having now is that those project managers are not updating that. They're not updating their dates in the famous system. This has really helped with that because everyone can see their dates now when they look on the map. And we've had a lot of project managers going back and forth going, hey, why are your dates say this? This is going to be a problem for me. It's like, oh, now they're getting a little bit better about maintaining their dates. But maintaining the project impact in our famous system is really difficult because there's not a great place to just write notes about the project. So if you're saying, oh, we're going to stage a dumpster for a week and then it's going to be gone, we don't have a great way to capture that except for in a one-to-one conversation with the project manager. So what we'd like to see happen with this is sometime over the next year, maybe more, depending on what happens with our work management system, to automate that part of the collection so that we don't have to hire someone else to come in and gather this. And once we start getting good data out of this, we can do some really cool stuff, like filter these by what projects are active now based on those dates. The reason we have all these views existing now is because I can't just say, oh, the dates are all accurate, let's just use this view. We're getting to that place where we can. And part of the power of this has been exposing that information to all the other project managers so that they can all see, oh, now everyone can see what's going on with my project and it's out, at least semi-public. It has made a difference, definitely. We can also, and if I mouse over this, I'm getting my little tooltip pop up, and we're getting essentially the same data there. Some of you might have noticed this little blue link hiding down here. This link ties us back into our document management system. Could I get a raise of hands? How many of you were at Glenn's Meridian talk? So you guys might have seen he had a slide in there with a hyperlink at the bottom and a screenshot of this map. And that hyperlink is basically where the power is when you're linking to our document management system. And if I click on this, what's happening is that it took that hyperlink, and that hyperlink ends in an equal sign, and it populated the end of that with data from our GIS data. And it maybe didn't, it didn't like that. I didn't log in first. So I'm going to log in and see if we can get all those project documents. And I apologize, this is a borrowed computer, so I might make it do some funky things. But it just did a search and found 484 drawings or documents, not just drawings, related to that project. So if you're the project manager or you're another project manager and you need to work with them or work close to that area, you can just go to the map and click on it and find out what's going on with that project. This has been really powerful for us too, because we can do the same thing with our building footprints. And there's our little hyperlink there, and we can do some even more advanced filtering with these. And if I click on the link, we can go right to just the floor plans for that building. Now that I'm logged in. And I can just pull one of these up. And there we go. Let's pull up the basement plan. And there's the basement plan for that building. So all of these are web applications, so as long as you're connected to the internet, you can use our map on a laptop. I'm on the Wi-Fi here, on a tablet. You can use it on your phone. It gets really small, especially if you're trying to look at a big sheet of drawings. But it does work, it's just small. And our web map works on your phone too. I use it on my phone sometimes. I'm like, what am I looking for? Yeah.
So can anyone access, like you had to put in your username and password, is that for anybody or just internal to the university?
It's internal to the university, and right now we're actually on a manual user system where I am adding users as I get requests. We're hoping to go to something tied into our single user logon system at some point. But that's a lot of, so I should mention that we're separate from our IT department, and our IT department is separate from our central IT department. So to get tied into our single logon user system, our identity system, you have to go through central IT, which means we have to go through our IT and then to central IT. And it's taken a little while to, and we have to manage a lot of like user account permissions and things. And really the intent of creating this map was to replace an older map that we had and to provide internal information for facilities management. I'd love to get to a place where everybody in facilities sweeping had access. And then anyone outside of facilities who needed it, police department, parking services, housing, EH&S, anyone else who had a need-based case to have it, which is what we're doing now. Is we're doing request by request. They email me, I set up their account, and then I send them a welcome email and say, hey, we do training if you want it. And a lot of people are happy to just dive into it and play with it, but I do trainings for whoever wants it. But I'd love to get to a place where we're just like, anybody who wants it gets it. And this map, if I start clicking around, and I'll just show you guys what's going on here. We've got lots of stuff in here. Oh.
We can add to that we're paying per user.
Yes, we are.
For these licenses.
And the reason that we're doing that is because when we set this up, it was initially a test case, and we were not funded to buy the enterprise license that we wanted to buy. And a lot of our GIS has happened that way. It has really been grassroots. It started with one person who corrected our base map, had all our benchmarks surveyed, and it took her almost 10 years alone to correct just our base data, campus base map, and utilities. We're still cleaning some things in our utilities, but let me turn some of those on here. Let's look at steam and irrigation. And I should mention too, since we put this map up in the last, it's been up for about 2 years now, we've really got a lot of buy-in from our campus community. What used to happen is someone in our office would be like, oh, you know, it's important, we should put this thing on the map. We'd reach out to whatever group was responsible for that, contact them, try to get them invested in giving us the information to make the map, and then develop it from there. If we didn't get buy-in from that group, we never got the
Each module we get is also a user license.
We're not getting a
We have
good
3
connection.
modules and 2
Oh,
regular user licenses, so 5 people in the office.
yeah. Oh, okay. Thank
The
you.
Enlightened license came with 100 users, and then we add 50 users at a time to that. Costs about $100 per user is what we charge back to the other campus folks. So $100 per year.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, I know.
You can buy it as a suite, but the meeting's a whole lot cheaper if you do that.
And we wanted to do that, and part of that was negotiating with our funding department, and they weren't ready to just fund us. We'd love to get to that. Neil and I go back and forth about that, and he goes to all the meetings to negotiate with them. But it has really been like a long slog to get to the point. We're not even officially a GIS department at this point, but we are the only GIS on campus. It has been an interesting journey, and I've only been here for 2 years as staff, and before that 2 years as a student in our GIS group. And basically I'm carrying ball now, so it's been a kind of a wild ride. It's great.
Yeah, I think it was the flexibility of Open Spatial allowing us to purchase this at a smaller level that enabled us to get the buy-in with the university to get it started, and now we're finally starting to get some get up and rolling and get this out in front of some people.
So even the construction map takes the license?
No. Basically, we still publish a PDF map, and we publish that to our website, but anyone who wants access to Enlighten gets a license.
So if you wanted the construction map and invite them, you don't have to
Ta-
buy a license for it.
Well, if you're in facilities management, we paid for those in a lump. You just get one. If you're in housing, you have to buy a license. So that was our deal with our staff. Colin hooked us up and let us buy just what we needed and what they would agree to. But that was negotiating with, I got to get all the little cogs rolling in the same direction. Because what we really wanted was give everybody in facilities a license, give everybody who wants one a license. And we're still doing that on a case-by-case basis. Colin hasn't hunted me down yet about my licenses, so.
And then-
Just to clarify, Liz, some of the costs you're talking about is internal charging between
Yes.
departments so that you guys can get funded.
Yeah,
It's not all over the space.
no, I'm sorry. It sounds like I'm picking on Colin. No, all of that is within our department structure. That has nothing to do with open spatials licenses. And all the complications that are coming from that are coming from our side of it.
And internally, if you have access to the construction map, there is no password to go to the utility map.
It's all in the same map. This is the map. So utilities, campus construction, base map, of course. And let me zoom in here. I've got all these layers in here. So we got utilities, tunnels, emergency management, health and safety, parking, hardscapes, transportation, snow maps. We got our ortho, we've got street view, we've got ADA, space planning, site plans in here. And at the bottom, hiding down here, those are my layers that I'm building for myself. And inside of those, we got way more layers. And Colin's got his hand up in the back.
I think the question is, how do you control who can see what layer?
Oh, sorry. And we do have user groups. And if you're, yeah. So this is our user admin. Oh, user admin. Manage users. So these are our user groups. So we have admin, custodial, events, general, which is the majority of our users are in general. That is, you get to see probably the most limited view of the data. At this point, we don't have a lot in there that we're preventing people from seeing because they're all in facilities management or in related groups. But for instance, if we go down to public safety sees things that the general user group does not see. And space planning sees things that the general user group doesn't see. And most of the reason for that, well, especially with space planning, is there's a lot of politics attached to who gets how much space. And only space planning gets to view their data. Most of what we have in there for space planning right now is a test case because we're in transition with our space management system. We're using Famous now, and we're going to go to Archibus sometime before Christmas, maybe. We'll see what happens with that. We have bought the software, and we're getting ready to implement. But we've done a lot of test cases with our space management system with figuring out what we want to do with that, and decided to go with Archibus, and then we'll tie that back into our GIS system. So, and I apologize if I'm meandering a little bit, but what I really want to do is just talk about whatever you guys are interested in knowing about how our system works. Yeah?
How do you handle a project with a variable construction fence? Say, for example, that one, number 87 we're looking at before, if you needed to do utility work in the street and pump out the fence,
Mhm.
street for a week, how would you treat that?
So I would just go ahead and change the shape and bump it out for that week, and then when it was done, I'd replace it with whatever shape it was.
Monday you change the shape, and on Friday you change it back.
Yeah, it's a manual process right now. We'd like to get to the place, we have the ability to set some dates and automate that stuff. So I could set it up to turn on at this date and turn off at this date. The reason we haven't done that is because our project team has been kind of resistant to being that specific with their dates. And they don't want to say, oh yeah, this fence is going to be down on Friday, and then if it's not down till Monday and it went off the map, there's some issue with that. And there's not as much impact with that with this map simply because it is internally facing. Yeah,
Is there any communications with the campus public about where the home zones are?
yes.
Parking lot closed or road closed? How do you use this map to do that?
No, this map is not what we use to do that. We actually publish a PDF map, which is essentially the same thing as this map, and we still go through the monthly iteration process to sit down with everybody, make sure everybody's talking about their projects. We get everybody in a room together, we look at that map, we look at the list, and we go through and have everybody say a little bit of something about their project. What we'd like to see happen is we want to take all these construction areas into a public-facing map and use those for wayfinding so that we can do some routing and say your construction fence bumps out over the sidewalk for a week, 2 weeks. For that 2 weeks, route students around that area. And then when the sidewalks open, route them back through. We have a lot of the capability to do that now. And I think we'll get more of that as we go forward in the future. The problem is actually that we're separate from our central OIT. Central OIT controls public-facing data. And so we need to partner with them and come up with a solution that they're interested in paying for and interested in implementing within their system. So I think as we go forward, we're going to get closer and closer with central IT and either bring our IT with it or move towards central IT, whatever ends up working better for us. We're in this weird growth area where we're maxing the capacity for what we're doing internally and for the support we're getting from our FMIT. And our FMIT has been really great about hosting servers for us, maintaining our back-end Oracle servers, helping us tie in famous data. But I think if we're going to want to go public-facing, we have to go through central IT. And that's a whole nother process. Neil's been just starting to do that, where we sit down in meetings with them, talk about what they want to pay for, what they want to see from that. But we have the data, and we have essentially the capability now to do that routing and wayfinding. What we need is dates from project managers and someplace to host it. So that's what we're waiting on now. And it's been an interesting journey. We go back and forth, and for the longest time, we had no support from the administration. It was all grassroots. Our grounds department is one of our biggest users. And if I turn on our grounds group, they have the most data in here. So we're talking about ground panels, trees. If I go over here by our Baker Hall, they've started putting pictures on our trees, and we can pull pictures right into our tooltips. And eventually, I think when we start doing more with this, we can pull in things like equipment numbers and asset tracking numbers, things like that. And really, where we've gone with this map is wherever the demand is, that's where we're going. So Grounds was like, hey, let's do this. And so they got the attention first, and then other people started seeing that. And they're, well, we want what Grounds has. It's like, we can do that. Yeah.
Does your grounds group enter data, or do they just give you information that you enter?
Right now, they give me well, a combination of both, actually. Our campus arborists are using our Trimble equipment. So we have a GNSS antenna and a laser rangefinder and a data collector. And they go out and they've collected, coming up on 5,000 trees at this point in about 2 years, year and a half, two or 3 years. And there are 2 guys, basically, and a third guy who helps intermittently with that. So they've been using our equipment that we bought, and they go out and collect trees. They've also started using that for things like campus furniture, and they're wanting to do things like collect what plants are in plant beds now. And we're figuring out what's the best collection method for that. I think yesterday I tested out some stuff that Colin brought with a mobile collector. And we're looking at figuring out different ways, other than sending out an army of students with paper and clipboard. that I have to go through all that paper when they come back to get that data back into our map because.
We've had success using collector GIS.
Mm. Oh, the Esri collector?
Yeah.
Yeah, and right now we don't have any,
You don't have that.
we don't have the infrastructure yet to support any of that. So our central OHT did buy an Esri enterprise license, but they're only using it for educational at this point, and we're talking with them about figuring out like what have we got and what can we use from that. So we're in the process of figuring out what we're doing at this point. Yeah.
So when an A firm is awarded contract for construction,
Mm-hmm.
can they access this for their plans? Do they get access to Meridian? Or do you provide the data?
It's on a case-by-case basis at this point. So before a project team and AE or contractor could get access to this, they have to go through our FM department and get a campus identity. So if they have a campus identity and they have a user, they could have access to this. Meridian, we don't actually directly control the access to that. That's our FM group. FMIT controls that. So if they want access to that, they have to negotiate with the project manager and FMIT. And that's been an interesting process because at this point, they haven't wanted, we're still in build out for that essentially, and we're doing it module by module. And they want to make sure that we're not giving secure information to outside entities. So right now we have a walk-up station in our office. Anyone can come in anytime and we'll help them find data. But we would like to be able to set up a portal system where if you're a contractor and you need data on this building, you log in and you get what you need. Right now we're on also a recharge system where we are paying or charging people to get access to data, basically so that, say we charge it to the project. So if you need 100 files, it's $100 for your project. The project pays for that budget, and basically that helps us pay students to file more stuff in our project management, in our document management system. We want to go to a recharge system, and we're working on that too. Or, sorry, a fully funded system. I'm mixing all my words together. So, yeah.
Elizabeth, I have two questions. So
Mm-hmm.
you said your grounds crew are field collecting. Do you do all the post-processing of that field collected?
Yeah, I do. So they bring me back the collector. Oh, I like doggy paddling, head above water most of the time.
And do you have plans to go into your construction?
Yeah, we
Do you
do.
know what your plans might be to leverage your space data and somehow code those spaces as being in construction?
Yeah, and actually that should be really easy once that happens. Once we get our spaces into our GIS, our work management system still tracks like where construction is happening, building, floor, room. So that's in a famous database. So once we get the spaces into our GIS, we ought to be able to tie those together. And if it's under construction, it'll show up red or hatched, whatever we decide to make it on the map, and we can absolutely set that up. And Colin's come up with some really awesome tools for helping us take our CAD plans into our Muncis GIS. We haven't actually implemented that, and the holdup is on our side because we're still figuring out what we're doing with our space management software. And once we actually have Archibus in hand, then we can at least look at it and go, okay, we need to put these things into the system. How do we get from CAD to this to GIS and get there? So right now we're still waiting for some parts to fall into place.
And are you staying with Famous?
For the time being, we're staying with Famous. I think for what it was meant to do, Famous does a good job. Our biggest problems with Famous are that people are making it do things that it wasn't meant to do. And then it doesn't work properly and people get frustrated. And also I think there's some frustration with the user interface for that. If anyone's used Famous, you're maybe familiar with that. And I have seen some organizations like MSU that's built a portal that runs on top of Famous and that puts Famous data into that so they have a better user interface. But we're not doing that, and our IT group's not interested in doing that, basically. But we are staying with Famous for the foreseeable future. But we'd like to move things like space out of Famous into something more dynamic, where we can have the people that are on the ground, our facilities managers, more in control of that data and have it more customizable. Because right now we have one space manager who's responsible for going around to every building and talking to the facility manager and updating all those spaces. We do update as-built and 100% CD on every project, but of course we get what we call midnight construction, or we get projects that were small and we never got as-built for them. We still have some of those that are out there. So we do find changes in our buildings that weren't recorded. But a lot of the changes are, oh, we traded this office with this department so that we could have, all the biology offices together. So now this office has physics person in it. Things like that, reassigning spaces, user departments, and we're hoping with our Archibus system that we can put that information in the hands of the facility managers, who are really the people who deal with that day to day. And our big push has really been to get data stewards, get people who are on the ground who have the information to help us put all that data into the system when we manage the system. Right now, we're still in a phase where the majority of the input comes through me or comes through our space management person. And we'd love to expand that web. And because right now there's a bottleneck, and that bottleneck is there's only so many hours in a day and so many hours in the work week that data is coming into the system. And we don't want to make people wait if they're going to go out and collect data to see that come back into the map. Do you have any more questions?
The question is kind of open.
Yeah.
Do you have any assignment of space to common areas outside of buildings?
We're tracking what we call, we track some things we call non-building buildings, which are things like sheds and stuff that don't really have their storage space. But we also track non-room rooms. So that includes things like crawl spaces, attics, patios.
And that's in the building.
That's
outside of buildings, right?
Yeah,
Does
that's.
the university have any assignment of space in the grounds area? Or is it all common?
So typically though, if it's a planted area, we count that in our ground, what we call ground panels, which are these planting blocks, and we account for it that way. But say it's a plaza or a field and we need to have an address for emergency services, we have that too. Let me hide that for a minute. And I think it's under emergency management here. We started doing emergency doors and things too. This is all incomplete right now. But so there's Farrand Field and there's the address for that field. So we are tracking outdoor spaces.
For emergency management, do you provide any fire lanes and routes for that for them?
We've only just started doing fire lanes. Do I have that? Nope, I literally just put that data in beginning of July, and then I was gone for the middle part of July. So we haven't put that data into the map yet. But we did get the data from our planning department, and planning is recently integrating with the rest of our systems. They're interested in putting all their data into the GIS, putting all their documents into the document management system. So I think a couple of you went over to our office. I think we're paperless, but if you see my office, it's full of paper. Because and a lot of that comes from our planning department, who's like, we have paper records, let's do something with these.
Another question. On your utility side, do you link to anything, any other information on the utilities that you have shown?
We're not currently. We do have some asset tracking in our Famous system for things like equipment. I don't think we might be getting down to the level of tracking valves. So yeah, we have steam valves. Let's see.
It's like a steam valve. How would you track that in your system versus, is it distribution or is it a structure?
I'm sorry, say again?
So like when you have essentially a tunnel or a vault where you have combined utilities or combined assets into one space. How do you track that?
We're actually tracking all of them. So let me turn on our tunnel. So there's a utility tunnel. Get rid of some stuff here. We are also tracking tunnel asbestos areas that have asbestos in them. Yellow stuff have pipe gaskets in them that one day when we go to replace that pipe, we'll need to get rid of those. Just a side note here.
So for your staff, you have photographs to kind of give them an idea of what to expect in your.
From the tunnels themselves? Yeah, so if I mouse over a tunnel here, we have a link into our Meridian document management system again. And come on, internet, you can do it. Come on. It's going a little slow. But while that is loading, that link just opened up a document in our document management system, which is plan, multiple sections, and a longitudinal section of that section of tunnel. section. But if we zoom in here, we actually had a consulting firm who crawled through all our tunnels or walked through them in some cases and mapped the interior of the tunnel. When I say mapped, they drew it up in CAD and give us the drawings for that. I've seen some people who have laser scanned their tunnels. I think that's MSU again. And, I was like,
I like to Revit.
yeah. Yeah, and we would like to do that going into the future. Again, we're a very small department, so we go where the wind blows, basically. So if they need it now, that's what we do now. We'd love to get to that, and when there's demand for it, I'm sure we'll get to the point of building that out. Yeah?
I don't know if you wanted to mention future projects, tour routes, and what we did for buildings under construction, like the interior construction.
Thank you.
Codes.
Yeah, so we should show you a few more things with our cones on here. So if I zoom out, you can see that a bunch of our buildings have turned different colors. So all of these buildings that have that brick pattern on them have some kind of construction in them. So we are actually currently tracking construction by building. You can see that almost all of our map turned orange. There's something going on everywhere. So if I zoom in here too, you can see we've also got these routes showing up on the map. Scroll down here to my legend. So the purple is our welcome program. We're bringing new students through the campus, move-in week, orientation, that kind of stuff. The green routes are for one of our summer programs, the Science Discovery. They're bringing elementary and middle school kids to the campus. So we want to make sure that that's fresh in the minds of our construction people. So like, you got to be careful when you're moving equipment around, especially in areas where they're bringing kids through. And this blue route we're seeing is the campus tour, and that is for prospective students and parents, essentially. So we also want to make sure that we're leaving room for the tour path and we're not routing the tour directly around construction. So this fence for this construction just went up about a week ago. So we're expecting to reroute this campus tour path. And actually they'll probably come around this way and back down so they're not walking through that pinch point next to the construction area. And also it's going to be messy and dusty and we'd rather not route our tours right next to the construction. But a lot of that, we're trying to get that information on our map and just keep it fresh in the minds of our project managers. But if we mouse over one of these buildings now too, you can get a list. The Norland Library's got 6 projects going on in it right now. And you can see a list of those project managers. This is just quick and fast, list all that data really quick. So if you wanted to see more detail on that, you can select this building and run a little form tool on it. And watch my internet move slowly. There we go. So now I just got a list of all the projects happening in that building. And I can scroll down that. Oh, they all fit on the screen, just barely. And you can see project, building, room, description, project manager, their phone number, their email, and what the status of that project is. And you can see here the issue with our construction dates. This is coming straight out of our system. These guys didn't put their dates in their projects yet. So this way, and some of these are in the planning phase, so they're not happening yet. But this is a great tool for helping our project managers that are starting a new project know who else is working in that building, and maybe you want to delay painting until after this project is finished. So we're not doing it on a room by room basis, but you can see a list of what's happening in that building. And if you want to, you can run that off to a spreadsheet and print it out. And down here at the bottom too, you can see a little bit more detailed view of each of those projects as I click on them. So we're doing that across campus. If I go over here, I'm really excited. There was a big construction area here, and this just came off, and this building just opened. So these are our new athletics facilities. Very exciting. I just point that out because I'm really happy to see that blob go off our map after a year and a half. Yeah.
Could we look at the attribute table and some of the attributes in the fields that you're using to input this data?
So I don't actually have access right to the attribute table from here, but what you were looking at in that form, if I pull that back up, is essentially our attribute table, what's visible to the public. So we're seeing CP number, building, description, project manager, phone, email. What you're not seeing here, and down here at the bottom is more, what you're not seeing here are our GIS system fields. So we do have, of course, the geometry fields, and some fields that control if that has a label on it, where the label goes, that kind of information. But the majority,
Geo-referenced at all?
sorry, what's that?
Is it geo-referenced at all?
Well, everything is geo-referenced.
Well, I
We're,
mean, is it to a coordinate system?
yeah, we're using,
So I mean, are those listed in your table as whatever?
we do keep centroids on all of our buildings. So we calculate latitude, longitude for all of those. And if I grab a building here, one that doesn't have construction on it, so I can get a hold of it. I may not do that one because that one's brand new and I haven't checked on it. Let's do math. There we go. So if I open that up, you can see my list got smaller here. But if I open that up, we are calculating a centroid for every building. And we use that, actually we provide that information to our OIT, who provides it to things like Bing Maps and Google Maps, so that our buildings at least have a point on the map. If someone says, take me to math building in Google, it'll get you close. We'd like to do our own internal wayfinding system. That'll of course be much more accurate, that we can control all the content in that, and we're working on implementing that now, or at least talking about getting all the parts in motion for that. But thank you guys for being here and being willing to talk to me and just run through this. I kind of think of this more as a discussion and a work session. So anything you guys want to know? Yeah?
Could you paint your new rec building?
Yeah.
Newer rec building? I was gonna see if you had Ralphie swimming pool.
It's actually not, sorry, athletics on the brain. There it is, Ralphie. Yeah, that was a big deal. We had Ralphie on the map more than a year before the construction was, I think the week the construction fence came up, we had Ralphie on the map because everyone wanted to know, where's Ralphie going to be? It's like, okay, got to get him on here, got to get him on the print maps. Yeah, Colin?
So how big is your, I mean, you've been doing this for 2 years as a student and 2 years now.
Yeah.
You're carrying the ball. How big is your department? In
Yeah.
all this work we see, how many people?
Yeah, and I talked about that at the beginning. We have 8 people in what we call the CAD office. One of those is a student. But the GIS component of that is, for the longest time, and our department has just recently grown from 6 to 8. But it was just me. So I built this map by myself. Neil did training with me. But basically, I went from data in our GIS database to a working web map in a month. We rolled it out to about 100 users a month after we started build out. And then over the next year, year and a half after that, we've added a lot of content. But the utilities were there, base map was there, and some of our construction stuff was there pretty early on. But we basically went from 0 web presence to standing up a working web map, this web map, in about a month. A lot of the content, construction, grounds was there because we had all our grounds data, and they were really excited about this. It's funny, actually, when I put this web map up, one of the first things our grounds group said is, "Why isn't our grass green?" It was like a nice pastel color. It was like a light green. They're like, "No, it has to be green." So that's why our map is super saturated. They're like, "It looks like we don't water the lawn." I was like, so that's been really funny. So we did have, zoom out here. So we had all of our base map content in here, and there's a whole bunch of, these are all different data tables coming in here, all different feature classes. We had base map, we had all of our utilities in here except for irrigation. We had our tunnels. We had, let's see, some of the transportation data. We had our ortho imagery, our street view, and then everything else got built out within the year, 2 years after that. So all the rest of that content got developed after that. And still now, with our current staffing, we have one guy in our office who basically does optimization. So he does a lot of like above campus level projects. So figuring out, what staff members live near bus routes that can get to campus so that we can send outreach to them. He does a lot of integrating with the space group, a lot of Python coding and stuff to optimize and run reports. So he's 50% GIS, but he ends up doing a lot of things like analysis and special projects. Basically, I'm the only person putting content into the system at this point. I do have actually, and I apologize, I'm selling my student short. He's not here today because I would love to say thank you to him. We've had him for a couple of months, and he was a CAD user. He came in from a landscape architecture background, and I taught him Muncis with CAD. He picked up Muncis, and I had him as a user putting data in and permissions to change and delete things in a week. First I was a little nervous. I was like, please don't delete anything. Really important. I think my first week with the system, I deleted all our buildings. They were all backed up, so I got them back. But I was, oh no. And I knew the second I did it. It was silly things like that. So I was like, please don't delete anything. Everything's backed up. But that's always interesting. I did one of our users. We do have 2 new people that I'm training, one who's doing projects and one who's my student. And they're both putting content in the system. Actually, they're both from landscape architecture backgrounds. And Susan, who's not in here, but she does project closeouts. I haven't done a project closeout in 6 months. She's doing all of our project closeouts. That includes incoming documents, filing everything in our document management system, cleaning all the CAD and putting it away, and then processing everything from those CAD drawings into our GIS. That includes updating what we call the base map. So that's roads, sidewalks, structures, water features, building footprints. That's what we consider the base map. Everything that's in the base map layer here. Oh, and property boundaries, fences, things like that. Then after that, she processes in all of our utilities. And then after that, we do landscape. We try to get as much out of one closeout as we can. So we do landscape, we do parking. I know I'm missing 5 things that we do during closeout, but if it's in the drawings, we try to capture it into the GIS. So that includes new trees, topo lines, 1-foot contours. Yeah. I think parking is a big thing for us. That's only come on board in the last couple of months. And we're really excited to get more involved with them. So one thing we're doing, if I turn on our parking layer here, is we're just starting to capture all of our striping parking spaces, parking lots into our system too. So when we do a project closeout that affects parking, we update all of that So basically, Susan, who's just come on board as of January, is touched almost every part of our GIS system at a project closeout. Anything we can update at closeout, we do update. And then, of course, as our people are out in the field, now people are bringing us updates when they find things that are inconsistent. So, I think we have a couple minutes left. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yeah.
So I'm curious on your utilities, one with the closeout process, along with the doors, walls, and windows that you're updating in your plans, are you updating any MEP information on those plans as well?
We are not. So basically, our utility services say our responsibility ends at the shutoff valve for the building, for the wall. So utility services does outside the building, facilities management does, or housing does inside the building. Utility services data is in pretty good shape. We have a lot of our underground utilities on the map. Of course, we're still improving that constantly. But inside the buildings, we had a couple of initiatives where people have tried to set up interiors, what we call sustaining systems plans, so mapping MEP inside the buildings. The problem was it was really a one-person initiative, and for whatever reason, it just never got off the ground. We'd love to get there. Right now, we just don't have the manpower to crunch through all that data.
I was going to ask how you were achieving it if you were doing it.
We love to be doing it. Is anybody doing it? Because if you are, I want to talk to you. Yeah.
On your outdoor, real quickly, is that surveyed utility lines? I mean, is that the exact locations, or is it diagrammatic in some nature?
It's some of both, actually. And if I zoom in here, this corner, like I said earlier, is what I like to call the spaghetti. I'm going to turn a few things on. I'm not going to turn everything on. Let's see. Let's do steam, storm, sewer. And that's just a few. There's more stuff out there.
Is there any attributes that says this is a field verified line location and this is just an assumed location?
Yep, and that's just what I was going to show you. So this one has a verified in it. You may not be able to see that, but verified has built. Oh, we also have the inverts on that pipe in there. And the diameter of the pipe in a lot of cases, not on this one. This is an older pipe. And the verified is from an as-built. So if we look at, it's not on our steam pipes because our steam system is getting reviewed right now. We're auditing that. But if we go onto one of our storm pipes, you can see that one's also from an as-built.
Is that linked to the Meridian document that has that as-built information in?
Here in the comments, we're actually tracking what project that came from. Right now, we're not doing a direct link into the system, partly because it gets really complicated. So if they dug up this part of the street and changed this line, but not this line, tracking that data has been interesting. We'd like to tie it in. Basically, I need to set up a system to do it.
I think associating it to a project number is a great start. At least
Yeah.
somebody in the path to go find it.
Yeah, part of the problem is too if we have concurrent projects. So if I go over here to our Pleasant Street project, we just redid a big chunk of Pleasant Street. Those who were at the theater last night, if you drove, you might have come across here. Let's see, Pleasant Street is right here. So this whole section south of Sewell Field here just all got redone. First time since like 50, 60 years that it had been done except for paving. So they redid this, they did paving, they changed all the curbs, they dug up utilities and did a lot of repairs on storm drainage and changes there. But that project was going on at the same time as our rec center project. So things that are in between there might be referencing two projects. So it's finding out like what part of the work got done first, if they're concurrent, and it got complicated for tracking that. But in a lot of cases, you can put one project number and just go straight to that project. This is one of those ones that got complicated quickly. There's just a lot of stuff going on in this area at the same time. And I figured if they're going to close the road, let's do it all. So. Is there anything else you'd like to throw in, Colin? I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, talking about lots of stuff at once, so.
No, you know the stuff better than I do. Yeah, so there is a column there, and so you're tracking the source of the updating. So if it is GPS and field verified, then that column would have different descriptions. So it would be, source document would be basically, okay, it came from a CAD something, or it could be it's field verified, or it's as built, or then you can go in and say it's been GPS and field verified. So you do different categories as you touch stuff. You keep track of the quality of the data.
Yeah, and I was going to show you our chilled water lines here. I don't actually have that field exposed in our tooltip here because essentially all of our chilled water has been GPSed. And that's all the chilled water that there is been GPSed so far because it's brand new. But that is one thing. All of these tooltips are custom and customizable. So a lot of that is when we first stood up the map, we didn't have a lot of these tooltips set up. And then as we've been going, they've gotten more content. They've gotten prettier. They have pictures and links in them. So the longer this exists, the better everything that's in it has gotten. And we're constantly improving.